This is the Persistence of Vision podcast.
Welcome in. I'm Clint Till. Each month on this podcast, I sit down and have conversations with other creatives in the film and video production industry, and we sit down and we share our stories of our experiences and the lessons that we've learned along the way. You can read more of the things that I'm writing at clinttill.substack.com. That's where all of this got started. So in essence, I'm kind of like the dad, who's gathering the kids around and saying, here are my life's experiences. Here are the mistakes I've made. Here are the successes that I've had. So you can better yourselves in your own careers and in your own lives. This week I have a great conversation with a wonderful cinematographer named Jared Callan, who I've worked with a few times, most recently on a new short film that I wrote and directed. So let's get right to it. All right, so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Oh, it works like that?
Yeah, look, we're getting into the formalities.
Okay. Hello, I'm Jared Callan, and I'm a director of photography and a gaffer.
Jared and I met probably back in late 2012 or 2013 when I first moved to Memphis and got plugged in with I knew the former Indie Memphis director, Eric Jambor. I knew him from Birmingham because that's where I'm from. And he was here in Memphis. And then when I moved here, I talked to Eric and I said, Eric, I'm coming to Memphis, got a new job. Who do I need to know in the film community? Jared Callan was like the first name mentioned. So I know you and I met for lunch just to kind of introduce ourselves. And then we just recently had the chance to, work together on a short film for the first time. That's My House, which is currently making the rounds on the film festival circuit. But I wanted to have you on, Jared, because I learned a tremendous amount just watching you work on our short film. It was, and I know at times when we were on set, you'd be like, all right, Clint, we're getting there. Just give me a few more minutes. And and I'm thinking, no, man, just do your thing. I'm soaking it all up. I'm taking it all in, So it's kind of like a little workshop for me at the same time.
It's so hard not to feel like people are waiting on you.
That's right.
Especially like in what we do, things take a lot of time. And normally you have ADs up your butt. Like, hey, how long? I don't really get along with ADs that well because it takes as long as it takes. We're here to do this one thing, and sometimes it takes a little time, but and it always takes a little bit longer at the beginning of a shoot, and then as things get going, things start to progressively get quicker and quicker. But I always like when I look over, I'm in the zone, and I'm in that work mindset, and I kind of do have that angry resting face. I don't know how PC you're trying to keep this, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. I always feel like, when I look at somebody and they stare at me, I'm like, oh, I'm on it. Don't worry. I'm actually trying.
Yes.
We're getting this done. We're getting this done. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it definitely pays off for sure in everything that I've seen you do over the years. And then, of course, everything that you did on my short film, it's definitely, there on the screen. So the patience pays off. The patience is definitely worthwhile, because anything that I'm doing, whether it's on the side, my own personal projects or in my day job, it's like, yeah, I feel the same way. Like I want it to look the absolute best and have a particular production value standard that we want to get to and reach. So I was extremely appreciative not only of your work on the film, but just everybody that was on the crew that helped me out, because I do feel like that everybody working on that just kind of elevated the whole thing to a new level. Because whenever I'm doing something like this, like I want to try and get better. And I've been doing this for a long time and I'm still learning stuff. And I still want to be kind of this perpetual student of taking in all of this good information and making it work for me.
It's always interesting. You're always learning. I mean, every time that you get on set, you learn something. And if you think that you know everything, then you're not going to go anywhere, and you're not going to get any better. It's always one of these things where you look at it and you're like, "Oh, this is incredible." But I always love going back and watching things that I did years ago, and I'm like, "Wow, I can actually feel a progression," because you're always like, there's always something new, or every time you get around somebody, you see how they work, and you're like, "Oh, wow, that's really interesting." Um, Film is a very collaborative art. It's a you can't be shut down to people's ideas. You just need to be able to like filter through their idea and choose the right one at the time. And that's the basis of being a director, and that's the basis of being a DP, because you have to rely on your gaffer and your key grip and everybody. You
Hmm.
can't be the guy that's like barking orders the whole time. It needs to be like an open thing. But the cool thing about being a director and about being a DP is that all the really cool ideas that I come up with, all the really cool ideas that the gaffer comes up with, it's all leans back to you because you're the director. And you know what? They're like, Clint, you did such a great job. You're damn right I did.
Yeah, yeah,
It's the
yeah.
same thing with me. Like, I'm nothing without a really great crew working with me,
Um,
So, yeah, man, that's what I really love about it. It's the puzzle.
mhm.
It's we have this amount of time. These are the tools, and by the way, this just broke, and we've got to figure this out. And guess what? You got 10 minutes to figure this out. And like, okay, well, this is as good as it can be for now. And then sometimes that's the actual magic.
Mhm. Yeah, and I was really uh, that relationship between the DP and the gaffer
Huge.
is massive because um, we had a very lean crew for That's My House, and there were days where you didn't have Mike Griggs, who you've worked with several times, incredible gaffer, filmmaker himself. Um, but when he was able to be on set, I mean, I could just see the difference in the way we were speeding through the setups. There was that a little bit more energy. You could kind of feel the creativity flowing a little bit more, I
Oh yeah.
think, you know?
Well, Mike is my security blanket on set. Mike and I have been working so long together that, especially on narrative shorts, that we really don't have to talk about it too much. He's the kind of guy where at the point now where I'm like, Mike, why don't you go ahead? And he's like, what, this? And he's already holding it up. He's already like, I've got it going. There's that secondhand conversation that it's like we can just look and know what we need. And also,
Mhm.
it's really cool. Like you, I really enjoy doing these smaller short films because it really helps you in your everyday corporate life. I don't know, like Clint and I both work in the corporate sector as well to make our daily money. We're trying to do more narrative stuff, but we still got to do the corporate thing. But it's really cool, all the little bitty things that you learn while doing short films that you can apply in your actual like corporate working situations. Because a lot of times you're
Absolutely.
shooting in homes and all that, and you're like, well, you know what? I've ran into this situation before, and you already
Yep.
know how to fix it. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah. For example, the things that I've had to do on my short films when I put on my producer hat, from scheduling, budgeting,
Oh, yeah.
logistics, and stuff. I mean, now in my day job, people are coming to me to handle that kind of stuff,
Right.
to handle the budgeting and the scheduling. When we have the chance to, most of the stuff I'm doing in my day-to-day job is more documentary style, but every so often we get the chance to direct some things, storyboard them, and even hire out local talent. And so those skills that, we're learning on our passion projects on the side directly applies to what we're doing day to day. So
Definitely.
it's definitely a big help. So I'm curious, what drew you to filmmaking, how you got into this, and kind of how you got your start.
Well, I wasn't a very good student in school. And I didn't do very well with homework and all the traditional things. I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted to play guitar and do vocals. That's what I always thought that I was gonna end up doing. And so by the time that I was a teenager, I'd been playing guitar for years, and then I had a couple of little small bands, and we were playing all over Memphis and down on Bill Street, and we had songs on local radio and all that. But it was time to go to college, and at the time that I was basically at getting out of high school, and my parents weren't really keen on paying for me to go to a large university because obviously I wasn't that great of a student, and I was so they sent me to a local community college, and I was like dying. I was dying going there, and I wasn't really interested in it, and I was basically just working at a local pizza place and at the Hard Rock Cafe and spending all my money going to the movies. And I would see every single film that was in the theaters. Hell, even my friends who didn't have money, I would go wake them up and be like, "Hey, we're going to the movies today." So, and so I kind of had to make a decision because I was kind of like wasting away at a community college. And I was like, yeah, I'm just not really interested in this. So I was thinking about, okay, I need to go to school to either be a recording engineer or something like that. But I didn't really see myself working in a studio the rest of my life, sweeping the floors or doing what else. And I was really into movies. And I'd met this one guy. Uh, his name was Tracy Parker, and he was a guy I went to high school with. And he told me he was writing a script. And I was like, "Wow, man, that's really cool." It kind of like sparked my idea. I was like, "Wow, that's really awesome, man." And it kind of like showed me that um, that's something you could do. It was something that was like, it's not just something that happens, it's on TV or it's in the theater. It's like, it's something that like, wow, these people actually like write scripts. And I was like, so I started tinkering with writing and all that. And then I started getting in my head like, wow, this is really interesting. Early days before the internet, we used to have these things called DVDs. Uh, and the DVDs had special features. And that was what always like, I needed the special edition of every DVD that I got because I wanted to watch the behind the scenes. I wanted to see that magic. So that's what it was. That's what drew me to it. And I ended up finding Full Sail, which is a entertainment business school down in Orlando. And so I packed up a couple of my friends and we went down to Florida and did the behind the scenes tour of Full Sail. And that kind of like sold it for me. So I was like, this is what I need to do. Basically, you get a 4-year degree in 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, it's a really strange thing. You can have, an 8-hour day, but you have, like, a 4-hour lecture, 4-hour lab, and you'll finish a semester of college in 1 month.
Wow.
And you're basically just doing 1 or 2 classes for that month, and they're just focusing just on getting that one done. But I didn't go planning to be a DP or a gaffer. I was gonna be a writer and a director.
I wish that I had YouTube and the other online
Can you
resources
imagine?
when I was coming up as a student that they do now. To like you said, to be able to watch somebody else's work and say, "Oh my gosh, like they're out here's a guy
Yes.
that's just like me that's doing this. How can I do that too?" Now, that's a double-edged sword because I would have loved to have had YouTube for the learning, would not have loved to have YouTube for the stuff I would have uploaded back then because the stuff I was making back then when I was in high school and first getting into college was terrible and would never because I know that I would have uploaded that to YouTube because
Oh,
at the
yeah.
time you're so proud of your own work and then you look back on it later like, oh my gosh I'm so glad those are like locked up on VHS tapes stored away where no one can see them now.
Yes, my early little shorts that I made in film school and all that, are on DVD, and I don't even know where my DVD player is, so
Yeah.
how about that?
Yeah. Yeah, one of the coolest things I got to do was in 2015, I had the chance to go up to the main media workshops, and that was like adult summer camp for me because we took, documentary class for an intensive full week class on documentary filmmaking because that's more applicable to what I'm doing day to day, but they
Yeah.
had hands-on cinematography classes, film editing classes, photography, writing, drone. I mean, everything. And I definitely want to go back because it was a really cool experience.
I Film school is not needed in what we do. Um, it's a lot of money to go to film school. And a lot of like film schools are connected to larger universities. So Full Sail is it is a university, but it's kind of like a private school, so it's very very expensive. And they don't have dormitories, so you have to get a with
Um,
your loans that you take out. You have to get your $1,000 a month to cover your apartment that you're going to get.
yeah,
Down in Orlando. So I spent like $100,000 to go to school. I could have been a doctor for what I spent to go to film school. But so maybe it's not the right thing to do, but what it did for me is it solidified that this is what I'm going to do. You know,
yeah,
once you get so deep, but in hell, I've been doing this for so long that I don't think I could do anything else at this point, anyways. But
yeah,
um, at least if you go to like a NYU or like you go to any of these other larger film schools, you probably get a better like education on math and sciences side of it. Now that those things
Mm.
existed at Full Sail, but they were kind of like secondary. Like they had to have the basics classes to get through to be able to accredit it, but it was more about the technical side. Actually, immediately out of Full Sail, I got a job offered to be a high school TV like instructor.
Mm.
And I just didn't see that was my parents were really pushing me to do that. That is a great job. That has benefits. You'll start out making $30,000 a year, and I was like, no, but that's not what I didn't
Yeah.
instantly go to school to like jump in to go and be a teacher, you know? So I don't know. That wasn't for me. There's I explain it kind of like this. There's inside cats and there's outside cats. I see myself
Yeah.
as an outside cat. There's people who work
Mm.
at like, small production companies or larger production companies, and they work in-house there. And, and that's an inside cat. You have the security of living inside. Someone's finding your jobs for you. You're on a salary or whatever. You've got all your benefits and all that. But, or you're freelance like me. You're an outside cat. Sometimes we get to play inside, but we live outside.
Yeah, and I spent 10 years doing that, freelancing, and then for me, it just became a matter of finances, of insurance, of practicalities of raising a family, that led me into the corporate world, and I've often thought about that. Would my career be any different if that was reversed? Like, if I had started out in the corporate world and made a lot of contacts, learned a lot, and then gone out on my own, I might have been better prepared than I was in my early 20s doing it right out of college. But then at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm not so sure that I want that freelance life right now when I have a son who's gonna go off to college next year, and I've
Right.
got all
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
I have all these, financial responsibilities. So it's like in my 20s, when I think back on it now in my freelance days, I wish I had the knowledge then that I gained from the corporate experience, because when
Yes.
when I when I work on a team, I see what other people are doing day to day on my team, and I think, "Oh, what did you do just there? Back that up. Let me see how you edited that, or what is that you're doing in After Effects? Teach me how to do that." And so that was kind of my graduate school. It was 10 years later, I finally got my first corporate job on a large team when I'd just been doing it solo for so long, and I learned more in that first, you know, 2 years than I probably did in the previous 7. Um, but like I said, I think, it's better for me personally, for where I am in life and what my responsibilities are at home, to be where I am now. But that's part of why I'm writing these stories and sharing these stories and thinking back on it, because now I'm trying to come to terms with all of my experiences and try to sort it all out and think back and like, what benefits did I gain from this? What have I learned from all these experiences that have brought me to where I am now? Would I have done anything differently? Do I have any regrets? That sort of thing.
Yeah, and I can definitely see that in you. Working with you closely on That's My House. Man, you command a set really well. You work with actors really well. You know how to talk to people. You've got that down, and your years of corporate work have really like helped you in that way. A lot of us. Everyone who works in the film industry is a little weird. We're all like interesting people. We all have different personalities, and one of the biggest things that we have to like work with is dealing with other people's personalities. And also, be like a duck, let the water roll off your back, because like a lot of times we're working in very like stressful situations, and being able to handle that is probably the hardest thing. It's a sink or swim kind of thing. And also the relationships at home. Being a freelance filmmaker is very, very difficult because you live by the phone, you live by the calendar. I don't know what's going on in 2 weeks, but you know what? In 2 weeks, I'm gonna be slammed, and that's really hard in relationships, you know? It's like I've had past relationships where, it it's hard to put your partner above you, above the job when, I've had things where, "Oh, you're gonna be gone the next 2 weeks? Well, you didn't think you should run that by me?" Well, this is my job. This is what I do, you know? So that's how I make my money. So it's but then it goes the other way, kinda like in a situation where, where you would have to not do the freelance thing, where if I wanna stay in this business, I probably need to go into production company that has benefits and it has a steady income if I have a family. If I have to take care of a wife or a husband or whomever you've got, and you've got kids or whatever, if you need to support somebody beside yourself, then it makes sense to have that stability. So it's just really it
Yeah.
depends on what you wanna get out of it. This is just what I do. I think that as a filmmaker, and if you get so deep into this, you might have to have that conversation on the front end, like, this is a lifestyle. I live a specific lifestyle, and sometimes it's ups and downs. Sometimes I'm not working at all, and I'm sitting around, and I'm waiting for the next job, and then but you'll always find something to fill your time. But you end up, like, getting in this spiral where, doing film work is, like, so much work, and it's a lot of work that you don't get paid for, especially if you're trying to make your own projects. So if you're having to worry about um, I've got to get all the post work done on this project, but then I'm also doing this other job that's actually making me money. And so you end up like piling these jobs on top of each other, and things start to like, you have to like, it's like an onion, like you have to start peeling back different layers. And it's hard to find the balance of like doing set work that's making me money versus the passion project that I'm actually working on. And oh, I still need to learn about this other new product, and oh, I bought all this new gear and I need to get this working and all that. So it's just so hard to find the daily balance in life that sometimes
Hmm.
what's that John Lennon quote? Life's what happens when you're busy making other plans. So
Yeah.
that's the way I feel like my entire like psychosis of being in this like industry is this. I'm just trying to to balance everything, and sometimes it could be
Mm.
really overwhelming. Being on sets like is like being a battle. It's like it's okay. We have this objective, and we have to get this done. And sometimes it's really terrible. And you're like, why are we doing this? Why are we putting ourselves through this? But it's that feeling when you finally get it done and you're sitting in a room and other people are watching what you're doing and you're seeing an emotional reaction from them, and you're like, wow, that
Mm.
actually makes it worth it. Or when you see that image that you've just been spent the last like 3 hours trying to light, and that camera move, and then the focus nails, and then you're just like, wow, there's that magic. And
Mm.
that's what makes me keep wanting to do it. But a lot of times it's really hard. It's stressful.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny that you use the word battle because, talking with others, like everybody that I talk to that's had this experience in filmmaking refers to it as a battle or a shared trauma or some sort of experience that you all go through together that galvanizes you. And I think you come out of it on the other side and you have all those stories. Oh man, remember when this happened on set and that happened? And you can either laugh about it or just like, oh my gosh, just kind of put your hand over your face thinking, "Oh, yeah, yeah," and you have these shared experiences that kind of brings people together. Uh, but I like what you had to say a little while ago about, kind of what is it that you want out of life in general,
Yeah.
and I think about that now in my career, like, you make choices, and, like you said, this is for you, this is a lifestyle that you've chosen, and I think
Yes.
about the fact that I did the same thing, and I remember when I was, graduating with my bachelor's degree, I had a choice, and my choice was I wanted to go to Florida State and get an MFA, and I wanted to go to their film school, but then I also wanted to get married, and I wanted to have a family, and I was also very close to my parents and my brother, and I didn't want to move too far away because I knew I wanted to have a family, and I knew that one day I would have kids, and I wanted them to be close to their grandparents and their aunts and uncles, and so I didn't wanna move out to LA or anything like that. So, now in this stage of life, you think back on that, "Wow, did I make the right choice? Where would my career be any different, or how different would it be?" Because, of course, it would be different, but then I think to myself, "No, this is the choice I made, and I'm happy I made this choice."
It's interesting the relationships that you create on a film set, especially if you do any like long form stuff, things that run for weeks or sometimes even, if it's just a week. You build these relationships with people. Um, and you're spending more time with these people close to close than you do with your own family. Especially in like I said, in long form stuff. Like, say you're gonna go shoot something for a month, and you're doing 6 days on, 1 day off, and you're doing these crazy, like, 12-hour days that or 10 to 16-hour days, because we all know that when you wrap on set, that's not a wrap for the crew. The actors get to go home and do whatever they're doing or whatever, and the producers or whomever, whatever they're doing their things, but you've got all the prep before and after every day. And then you got all your wind down. So you end up like living in this like zombie type state, which makes you kind of like, when you said it's like a bit of a trauma. So you have like this trauma bonding thing where you're leaning on all these people. And then it even gets to a point sometimes where you're on set, and then you're working on set, and then you're like problem solving in your dreams at night. It's like you get in
Right.
this like cycle of like on set during the day, on set during the night. So you're just never really leaving. And that's what the thing. And what's really, really crazy is you can get into these situations where you learn these people, and you create these incredible bonds on set, and then at the end of the show, you never see each other again.
I know.
It
Yeah.
just ends. And like we were all so tight, and we created this like family, and we created all this like because we learned how to like like I said with Mike and I, like we can communicate without having to talk, because we've worked so close together. But then after the shoot's over, everybody goes back to their actual lives, and we remember those times fondly, even though that we were in
Um,
hell at times. But it's still a great thing. It's such an interesting thing that I've been doing this for over 20 years, and like I have been through so many like little groups of crews, and I'll never see these people again. But we were so
yeah.
tight for such a short time.
Even on the short stints that I did back in the day on some reality television shows that I got the chance to work on, it was like, 3, 4 day shoot. I had the chance to work on TLC's My Strange Addiction, did 3 episodes with them. And I remember it was a very small crew, but we'd be out to dinner just kind of wide-eyed like, "What was that we just witnessed today?"
Exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, so even on those shorter projects, you still have that same bond that you're talking about. But yes, yeah, I gave my business card at the time to the producer of that show and to the audio guys and the other camera guys, and like, "Oh yeah, we'll you know, keep me in mind for future work. Let's stay in touch." And yeah, I did for a little bit, but then I couldn't
Yeah.
even tell you who I couldn't pick them out of a crowd now, maybe one of them.
Yeah, everybody goes back to their life, and starts focusing on the next project.
Yeah.
That is one thing that once you get established, and you don't even have to be majorly established, but once you start working in this industry, and you start forming connections, work just seems to come to you, and
Yeah.
you'll kind of start figuring it out, especially after a while. It may take a while where it's the only thing that you're doing, but it's like fishing. You keep throwing a hook out there, something will bite.
Yep, and word of mouth is just so, so important, and that's the one thing I worried about so much when I was freelancing. I put a lot of pressure on myself, because I thought, "Oh my goodness, if I don't nail this for this client, or if something goes wrong and I can't fix it or can't appease this client, then they're gonna just badmouth me to everybody around town, and then that's the end of that." So I think you talked earlier about kind of this fortitude that you have to have like a duck, things rolling off your back. And I think as I look back on my career, I think that's one of the things that I really struggled with is not letting those moments really spiral me into this sense of self-doubt and negativity, where I was so worried about losing out on future work or getting a bad reputation that, if you aren't careful, that kind of stuff can paralyze you in a
Oh yeah.
way.
Well, imposter syndrome is real,
Yeah.
and I still get it today. Like, can I do this? Well, yeah, of course you can. You've been doing this forever. And it's one of those things where sometimes you just got to be thrown in the middle of it to get over the stress of that we have to do this. Yeah, trust in yourself, trust in your knowledge that you're gonna make it happen. But also, I've been doing it for so long that I am really, really, really good at being in a room of people freaking out and being the one to like, okay, well, let's just get it done. And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things that I I think what got me into that mode to be able to like do that is when gimbals came out. You've got to build this stupid thing and balance it, then it keeps breaking, and you have a producer standing over your shoulder going like, we're supposed to be shooting this like 30 minutes ago. And I'm like, yeah, just give me another minute. I'm like, I'm trying to balance this thing and get this thing built. So I like working with early gimbals, really like helped me like curb my stress when someone else is panicking behind me.
Yeah.
I think that that's a valuable thing to have is to try to be the level head. You can start freaking out on the inside, but you just need to let it be calm on the outside. It's very, very it's panic is very contagious on set.
Yeah, yeah, and, there's always gonna be people that are better than you, when I
Yes.
finish a film or I do a video and I even today, and I'm proud of it, and I think to myself, "That really came out well." Well, then I go to a festival, and I see people half my age that are doing much more incredible work. I'm thinking, "Man, and there's always gonna be somebody that's better than you, but then just ignoring that and just doing it for you, really, and doing it because you enjoy doing it, and then if somebody gets something out of it, hey, bonus points for you. That's how I've gotten over this imposter syndrome. Not that it doesn't ever affect me, but that at least has helped.
Yeah, when I was growing up and playing in bands, like you would go see another band play, another local band, and they were really good. And it would make me mad. I'd be like,
Mhm.
"Man, screw these guys, man. Look at all this crowd. These people are him. Like, I can do that." It would anger me. And I
Yeah.
see that in a lot of, like, younger, filmmakers, and I even had that in myself, and it's something that, like, maybe it just happens with getting older, where you start to it shouldn't be that's just basically, that's jealousy. Let's just say what it is. Like, it's like, "Wow, I wanna do what they're doing, and they're better than me." But use that as fuel to get better, but not in an angry way. You should lift that person up. I think it's the hardest thing to see someone that's your peer, to take a step beyond you. But also know that if you're a good person and you're like, "Man, I am so proud of you, man. That is so great that you did that. Like, I'm loving everything that you guys are doing." Maybe that guy will throw you a job next time, or
Mhm.
maybe he'll bring you out to help out. Like, there's never talk down to a PA, never talk down to anyone below you because that person will end up, becoming a producer that has a possibility of hiring you later.
I've experienced that myself where someone gets the award, someone gets the recognition, and I think and there's those thoughts where you're going, "Man, no," and you start to really pick it apart, and you think, "That wasn't that good," "My stuff's better," and or, "Why I've been working twice as long or as this guy over here has. Where are my awards? Where are my accolades?" But yeah, you're right. I mean, that kind of stuff just can really poison you.
It definitely gets in the way. Um,
Yeah. So when we talk about all this stuff and our experiences, I'm curious, maybe as you first started out as a freelancer, like you said, you've got 20 plus years of experience now. You've learned a lot, but maybe thinking back to some of those first big lessons that were hard to go through at the time, but now you look back on it and think, I'm really thankful for that because it taught me this.
the biggest, like, things that have, like, shaped me as a filmmaker and as a crew person is, like I said, is just dealing with the crazy stuff that happens. You're on set and, just recently, I was out and, had a camera go down and actually killed a camera on set. And it's how do you pivot? How do you luckily, we had another camera on standby. It wasn't the same type of camera, but there was another camera we were able to actually finish the day. It's panic later. Like, have the meltdown later that you just destroyed a $30,000 camera, and that now, we're 12 hours away, on a out-of-town gig, and we've gotta finish the day with what we have.
So with the experience that you just talked about with the camera going down, was that for a client? I mean, did you have like a client on set as well? Kind of.
Unfortunately, it was on a, it was on a independent short film with no insurance, so, basically lost everything without so that was that's a big learning thing, like, make sure you have your own insurance. I'm kinda in a weird spot at the moment where I didn't have that covered, so it kinda shot myself in the foot, so, yeah, you're always learning. My dad has this saying that, school is expensive, and you don't. It doesn't necessarily have to cost money to learn things. And school can be anything you learn. So get
Hmm.
insurance on your expensive items, kids. You know, there's so many little bitty things that we have to do to get a production to work. And it's all the way down to, bringing the media or bringing the batteries, or I forgot the stupid base plate for the tripod, so now we have to tape the camera to the tripod. Or, one time we drove an hour and a half away. I had been on a run of multiple shoots, and I was running a little ragged, where you're not really getting enough sleep. And I prepped all the gear for the shoot the next day, and I set it by the door, and I was going to wake up the next day and load in and go. So I loaded all the gear. I went and picked up my AC, and we drove an hour and a half away and got to the shoot, and we started unloading, and I realized that I did not bring the camera.
Mm.
I knew exactly where it was, and I had to go and tell this crew of people that were standing there waiting for us to shoot, um, guys, I know that we have a hard out in 3 hours. We were supposed to shoot this thing really quickly. It was not even a half day thing, but unfortunately, our camera is broken. And is there any way that we can get everybody to come back tomorrow? I know this is on me, and I'll take everybody out to dinner or to an early lunch. And then we'll try to reconvene tomorrow. And luckily, we were able to make that happen. I didn't want to go say that I am the biggest idiot in the world, and I did not bring the camera.
Yeah.
Um, so man, things happen.
Yeah.
We're all
Yeah.
human, and just like hopefully you can work your way through it. Those are the moments where you really you kind of learn if you can sink or swim, because
Yeah.
we
And
all
then
make mistakes.
and then people wonder why I'm so OCD about stuff and
Yes.
they wonder why I'm triple checking everything. Well, it's because one time I forgot to plug the microphone in, or
Yes.
one time I flew across country for a shoot,
Oh
and
no.
I was a camera for hire, so I was using all of uh, the producer's gear. So he had me come by his house, picked it up, hopped on a plane, went, got there, and there was no boom arm for the shotgun mic he had packed for me. Not a horrible situation, not the worst situation I've been in, but still, like you said, one of those things where you gotta just kinda tape something together.
Yeah. I
A
need a mop.
yeah, I had some bungee cords and some tape, and then you just hope it doesn't all fall apart when the client, gets over there and sits in the chair for the interview.
Luckily, a lot of the times the client doesn't really know what they're looking at. So,
Yes.
um, just act like this is the way we always do it. We always take a white folding table and bounce our light into it because we forgot to bring our ultra bounce. There are things that you just have to do, but that's what I'm saying. That's where the magic is, though. Is like sometimes when you don't have everything you need and you need to improvise, or we're down to the last 10 minutes and we've got to we're running out of light and we need to nail this. It it, it just works out. You know. That's where the magic is. It's like, wow, that's my favorite shot of the entire day, and that's the one we just happened to shoot, just like on the off the cuff.
Yeah, it's funny because, in my day job, we had some coworkers of mine that were shooting some drone footage, and they took it up for a sunset shot, and I forget what they said happened, but, like, the batteries were going bad, so they'd bring it right back down, or something was up with the drone, it wasn't working right, and it didn't look good, and they're like, "Ah, this is not gonna be good," so they brought it back down. That's a shot we end up using a
Oh,
lot in our
incredible.
B-roll, and they laugh about it now. They're thinking, "I cannot believe how many times this shot is being used because we thought the day of how terrible it was, that no one's ever gonna use this shot." But you're right, you just never know, and there are things that happen that, as long as, like you said, as long as we kind of panic on the inside and
It's
don't tip our hand, no one's gonna ever know.
Yeah, I call that an unintentional masterpiece.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just it just happens to work out, and a lot of times you have to just let it go, and trust in your ability to make this happen because there's a reason that you're here. And there's a reason that we're in this moment all here together to do this, and that's to do this one thing, and we just need to just do it, and it'll work out. I've been doing this for so long, and I've only been on a few things that just didn't work, you know? Um, and it's never really because of the quality of the product or whatever. It's just because, you know, contracts didn't work, or, you know, I don't know. It's always something weird. Like,
Yeah.
I did a music video one time, and everything was done on a conversation deal. There weren't any deal memos or contracts or anything. And when you have two different people who were discussing budgets and everything, um, so I got one number for a budget from one guy who was apparently the money guy, but the guy who was producing it was wanting to do things cheaper. But I did things at the larger number because that means we could do more. So I was able to hire all this crew and all that. And so we get there on the day, and the producer guy finds out how much we were actually going to spend, and he panics and we cancel. So I had to come
Mm.
out of pocket and pay all these people because he didn't
Oh
want to
man.
spend what was needed. So, those things happen, but that's a big learning thing. Is like we
Yeah.
don't do that anymore. You can't do everything on a handshake and and a wink and a smile.
hmm
You kind of cover your butt a little bit more than that. That's a big learning thing as well.
Yeah, especially when it comes to working for friends, because back in my early 20s, actually when I was still in college, some friends of mine who were that's how I fell into doing wedding videos, because basically
Oh no.
friends from college were getting married and wanted me to do their wedding video. They knew I was in video, and so I said, "Sure." And when you're talking about contracts, I did a wedding video for a friend of mine, very good friend of mine from high school, and I'm pretty sure I did have a contract with her, but I triple checked everything, made sure I had all the gear. This was back before turn-by-turn GPS, so I had to print out the directions.
MapQuest.
Had to print out the directions, gave myself extra time just in case.
Yes.
We're making good time. I get to the church, and I'm thinking, "Why are they already lined up?" And, "Oh my gosh, they're going into the church." And I realized at that moment, I had totally forgotten the
Time
Eastern
change.
time zone time
Yes.
change,
Golly, man.
and I lost an hour, and we scrambled to get everything set up, and we fortunately just missed the family walking in, and we missed the wedding party, but we got the bride coming in and the rest of the ceremony. Now, the problem was that when I finally got the video to my friend, her first comment was, "I thought it would be more professional." And that's when you're talking about, like, just doing things on a handshake or flying loose with contracts or dealing with friends. I mean, that kind of stuff can really come back to bite you if you aren't professional through and through with
Yeah.
everything that you're doing, even with friends, you know?
Yeah, there's just something about being in charge of someone's perfect day. And then I was also working for this small production company, and they sent us out to shoot a wedding, and they had worked out like an hourly deal, and it's really hard to look someone in the face and tell them that, "I'm sorry, we're just out of time for what you spent. But, oh, well, could you please stay and at least shoot the cake?" Well, when is that going to be? "Oh, it's at least another 30 or 45 minutes." "I'm sorry, we have to go." It's really hard to do that, so I don't want to do any of that. I don't like events. That's not me, man.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then, of course, that gets back to what I said earlier about word of mouth, 'cause as soon as you do that,
Yes, then it's bad on you.
yes, it looks bad on you, word gets around, and yeah, no, I hear
They
you.
wouldn't even stay for the cake cutting.
Yeah,
Like, "Look,
don't
lady."
hire don't hire these people again. They left mid-reception. I always want to give, my guests a chance to plug anything they wanna plug before we wrap up. So where can people find you online? What are you working on? What do you wanna plug today?
Well, if you haven't heard enough of me, then you can check out my podcast, The Movie Crew, which is a podcast of filmmakers dissecting films, not in a clinical way, but just more in a conversational way. It's kind of, we always say, it's a group of filmmakers talking about movies because they would just be doing it anyways. And we just happen to record it. So, yeah, it's called The Movie Crew. You can find it anywhere you find podcasts. And if you want to talk to me directly, you can find me on Instagram at Check the Gate. Hit me up. Let's shoot something.
Sounds great, Jared. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, man. Cheers. Thanks for having me.
And that's my conversation with Jared Callan, an extremely talented cinematographer, someone who I've had the pleasure of working with and learning a lot from. As always, you can find me online at linktree.com/Clint Till. There you can find everything that I'm doing online. You can subscribe to my newsletter on Substack, clinttill.substack.com, where I'm writing these personal stories and sending these out in a weekly newsletter. As always, please be sure to rate and review this show. We're in our first season. I'm brand new to the podcasting sphere, so if you could help spread the word, share this show with others, I would really appreciate it. If you have a story you'd like to share and you want to be on this podcast and you have something great to tell and lessons that you've learned, please hit me up. You can email me, clinttill@substack.com. And that's it for this episode of the Persistence of Vision podcast. Thanks for listening.